Have you ever looked at the moon and felt like it was looking back at you? Not just watching, but revealing. Because what if the moon isn't just a rock in the sky? What if it's a lens that reflects everything inside you? Your emotions, your thoughts, your energy. Not creating it, just exposing it. And when that light hits, you feel it. Restlessness, tension, intensity. That's not the moon controlling you. That's you being revealed. Because when your energy is eclipsed, you don't disappear. You fragment. Scattered thoughts, unfocused energy, emotion you can't explain. That's the eclipse. Not outside. Inside. But then the full moon rises. And everything hidden comes to the surface. Amplified. Louder, heavier, harder to ignore. And most people react. They lash out. They lose control. They get pulled by the wave. But emotional intelligence, there's something different. It observes. It doesn't run. It doesn't react. It sees. Because the moment you see it, you can control it. So you center yourself. You breathe. You slow down. You come back to you. Because your energy was never out there. It was always here. Inside you. So you stop outsourcing it. No validation, no permission, just source. And when you tap into that, everything changes. Now the energy moves, you create, you build, you express, you flow. Because energy that flows transforms, but energy that blocks explodes. So you stay aware of your cycles, your emotions, your patterns. You adjust the less, over and over again, until one day you realize something the moon never controls you. It never held your power, it only showed you what was already there. So don't fear the light, don't fear the intensity. That's not weakness, that's exposure, that's true, that's your energy. Trying to break free. So observe it, center it, draw from yourself, and let it flow. Because your power was never missing. It was only eclipsed.
Its claws, I've seen it feast. It whispers lies, it feeds on fear. But I stand strong, the path is clear. The shadows crawl, the weak may fall. Deception spreads to choke us all. I won't be fooled, I won't comply. I raise my voice, I will not die. Rise from the ashes, break every chain. Truth is a weapon, fury flame. The world may tremble, the night may scream, but we are stronger than what we've seen. I've been in the maze, I face the light, no stands with me to claim the fight. No more lies, no more deceit. We rise as one, and our hearts won't retreat. The beast may roar, it may claw, it may bite. Process the dark, none of the light. We are fight, we are still, we will take our fate. We will think that we all that keeps you up at night. Make all the kids cry when we were built to thrive. I think that we all
Well, hail and welcome, everybody. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower, and this is not your normal midweek service. It's Wednesday night in the heartland. Got started just a few seconds early. I hope that's okay with you. Tonight, the Rapture of the Body Snatchers. Have you seen this? Wait till you do. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower. 25 years a Christian minister. Preached on 5 continents. Have 200,000 hours of study in the Greek and Hebrew scriptures. And we are ready. Nathan and his girlfriend are here. We'll try to keep it classy, Nathan. We'll try to keep it classy. We'll be back again on Sunday. Another great deep program lined up for you. Not Your Normal Sunday. That comes on also at 9 p.m. Central Time, preceded with 30 minutes of warm up music. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. I always forget exactly what we're jumping right into, but tonight we're going to open up with some clips as usual. Then we'll hear from Jim, the Tennessean, always has some good info to drop on us. And we'll follow up, Jim, with some open lines. If you have any questions, if you have any statements, if you can be polite, if you can be interesting, and if you can refrain from trying to take over the show and preach your message. And of course, this is not a write-in show, so we do limit some of the stuff in the chat. I mean, you can say things once, but if you start riding your hobby horse or, trying to take over the deprogram, then we employ the timeouts. And in, really extreme situations, we have been known as the longtime cousins are here. We have been known to ban a bitch from time to time. We'll move into some follow-ups on prior deprograms. We'll hit the salvation of the body snatchers. Then we'll hit the rapture of the body snatchers. And we always throw open the lines at the end. And we'll probably keep them over during the balance of the deprogram. That's when you put in your questions in capital letters. And I think they're good and pertain and won't distract from the deprogram, then we'll go ahead and open them up. Be careful, because Kylie says she's ready to ban a bitch. She wrote it right in the chat. So we love you all very much. We do have our sponsors down there in the information box below. You can get your posters, your mugs, your shirts. You can get your nanosoma, which gets everything out of you that's not supposed to be in you. You can get your Focus Life Force Energy, which brings a high consciousness environment to your home and phone. Cynthia and I have never been without it. It's our longest running sponsor. Well, I also have a Substack you can subscribe to, information below. You can also donate to keep me going. Cash App, you see there, $1 Indoctrinate, PayPal, GothamLTD@gmail.com. And I'm throwing open a new offering to you. If during the week, which would include Sunday and Wednesday, if we do exceed $100 in donations between Sunday and Thursday, then I will commit to doing a bonus show on Friday night. So if you want more content, you can help out. And Anthony got us started. He sent in a great $10 donation. The plastic Jesus t-shirts, I think they come in black, white, and red. And the link is in the box below. So Anthony, thank you so much for that great donation. Anthony, one of our long time cousins. He's a good guy. We really appreciate Anthony. And I like to start with something nice. This is nice. It's a tad long. It shows we're not alone. This is a great Hispanic guy. And this will tug at your heartstrings. This is a really good one. Enjoy this.
This little boy spent a whole year saving his allowance to surprise his dad on Father's Day, and it's just the sweetest thing.
What's up?
Close your eyes. Close your eyes.
How you doing with the phone?
I have a gift for you for Father's Day.
With my eyes?
Yeah.
They're closed.
Open your hands, please. Open your hands. Keep your eyes closed, please.
Eyes closed.
Okay, I'll tell you when to open your eyes, okay? All right. 3, 2, 1, open.
What is it?
Just open it. Oh, I might give you it.
Are you sure this is for me?
Yeah, it's for
This
you.
is addressed to your mom.
It is just one. But
You want me to open it now?
Yeah.
Or wait till tomorrow when it's Father's Day? Now?
open it now. I was too excited.
No freaking way! Oh my god, I've been wanting one of these. Is this the real one?
Yeah. You can tell it has 3 stripes and it has the Adidas logo.
Where did you get $100, bro?
Oh, for my alliance, I saved this since last year, cause I know you're the best dad. So yeah. Do you like your gift?
You have to do that, son.
My heart
I'm happy.
is yours.
But I wasn't expecting that.
It's alright, you bought me gifts before. It's my time to repay you.
That's
Thanks,
what
son.
I do.
I love it.
Love you.
Thank you. I know you're more than enough, right?
I know I was wrong.
Are you recording?
Yeah.
You little turd. I love you.
You down.
I love it.
Ever wonder why cats stare at empty corners? They're not staring at nothing. They're actually watching the invisible world that you've forgotten. You see, cats aren't just pets. They're plasma guardians from an ancient star system. In ancient times, from Egypt to Lemuria, cats were honored because their nervous system is calibrated to be able to detect and deflect distortions in the electromagnetic and astral fields. So, that weird meow that you hear at 3 a.m., they're actually clearing the room. Cats are from a feline lineage that seeded part of our DNA. From the Sirius star system came a group known as the Lyran Syrian Feline Elohai, which were benevolent beings who helped engineer our 12-stranded DNA template. So every cat actually still carries a faint memory of its origin. And that's why they act like, they're royalty, because deep down, they remember their origins. So when a cat lays on your chest, or it purrs on your womb, or it blinks slowly into your eyes, they're not just being cute. They're actually entraining your biofield, your energy, back into harmonic resonance. They are masters of presence, stillness, and dimensional awareness. So they're not just your pet, they're actually also our teachers. And they're here to remind us how to be still, how to see clearly, and how to walk between dimensions. And that's why they chose you. So the next time your cat stares at nothing, take a sacred pause and remember who you really are beyond the physical. Perhaps they are staring at the real you.
Anybody that has cats knows what this guy is talking about. And I remember when I used to do a lot of astral work, Rooney, the new cosmic kitten over there, he would follow me into the astral realm. He looked like a big saber-toothed tiger in the astral realm. So we had a good Mexican, Hispanic dude. We got the Asian dude weighing in with good stuff. So we're really not alone. I know that we want to optimize our race, but we want to get the hell out of the way of the other races, allow them to optimize themselves too. So all of humanity can be optimized.
She found something eerie on this mountain.
There is another 100 of them out there.
Carrie and her daughter were horseback riding up Mount Shasta when they heard a strange sound coming from the trees. So Carrie started live streaming and captured this.
We just came across this noise that we heard. We're going up this hill. You can hear it in the background. I'm going to show you. And I have to do this live. I had to pick some platform to do it live on because nobody's going to believe me that it's real. It's creepy, huh? No. So there's this one. But then look, over here. You hear that noise? Oh. And look there is another 100 of them out there. but it's like this Lemurian beacon system. I have no idea.
And this is in the area it's on Mount Shasta where you have a lot of occurrences taking place. So is it malevolent? Is it benevolent? I don't know, but it is definitely weird, man. It is definitely weird. Cynthia had sent me this post from X. Then one of the great cousins sent me in the clip. So thanks for the teamwork, folks.
The scariest part is they still don't get it.
Go back to your point about leftist violence. You have to understand this is not something new. This is not something that's randomly happening. It happened in China, it happened in Vietnam, it happened in Cuba, which I'm Cuban. Every single time the leftists take over, what do they want? Revolution. To what? Break down the status quo. How do they do that? Not through peace. They do it through revolution. Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, Pol Pot, Mao Zedong, Stalin. Every single time, that's how they do it. And you know who they use? All of you. They use the university students. They use leftists. The authoritarian convinced the leftists to fight for them. It happened in Iran where the Ayatollah took over. It happened in Cuba with Castro. They get the leftists to disrupt and cause destabilization. Once they take power, they get rid of all of the leftists that help them get in power. You know what Mao did after he got power? He said, I don't need any more destabilization. He sent them out into the fields to work, and 9 million of them died. They go after the young people in universities every single time. This is the same thing happening over again. This is not new. What you're experiencing is not new. It's just new to you. It's new to our age.
This is a repeatable a pattern that happens and happens and happens. And I can't help but notice that this new thing that's taking over, I know we have Islamic problems in the United States. I know some people are afraid of the Noahide laws, but the biggest drive in the nation right now, arguably, is this Christian nationalism, is this Christian identity. And they're doing the same thing. You know, the whole Charlie Kirk game was to go to the colleges, radicalize the students, get the students behind them. And if you're a Christian and you're working to take over this country, guess what? They'll get rid of you too, which kind of goes to our subject tonight. They'll get rid of you too, just like they always get rid of the people that they use to build their revolutions. In Christianity, if you've ever read the book of Acts, is textbook communism.
Your phone is about to stop being yours. Starting September 2026, a silent update will non-consensually be pushed by Google, will block every Android app whose developer hasn't registered with Google and signed their contract, paid up, and handed over a government ID. So Google now requires a government ID to actually sideload apps. If you're following the page for a long time, you'll know I've been talking about this for over a year now. Every time I do a video on it, it gets just buried. So this one will probably get buried too. You might as well use an iPhone now though. Although Samsung's cameras do seem a little better. Peace and love.
There's a lot of stuff happening, and most of it isn't good. Most of it isn't good, but there's a lot of stuff going on, and we need to be aware. We need to be awake. And maybe I got the wrong link in the deal below. I'll fix it for the shirts. My bad. I'm busy as a one-armed paper hanger these days, you know, having to work and still produce the deprogram. So I'll go in there, I'll fix it, I'll make it right. And we're just holding on for just a minute to get Jim in the house. And Jim always comes in each show, at least for a while, until he continues, as long as he continues to want to do it, and share some information with us. And it's always really good information. So we have him come in at 9:15 every night. Tanhawk says he's had visions of being a citizen of Telos, Lemurian, at Mount Shasta. So yeah, Shasta is a really interesting, really spiritual type place. And there's a lot of great things happening, a lot of interesting things happening. And it's an exciting time to be alive. It really is. It's a very exciting time to be alive. Some of you feel the angst. Some of you feel the pain, but there's also, man, there's also some good stuff going on. And speaking of good stuff going on, we got Jim here.
Call from.
And we will accept that. And we are ready to rock and roll. Jim, what's on your mind tonight?
I'm going to pick up a little bit on the last thing I discussed with you about hot rhythm and cold rhythm.
Okay.
Okay. When the Caucasians have a slow rhythm, it's not because they're slow, it's the thinking processing. Such as when a man thinks of a word, he thinks more about the next word, know where he's going with the words, and tries to see more into the future of what he thinks. Where hot rhythm or hot running as well, their brains go so fast with words, they don't take time to absorb it to be able to keep out of traps. So it's like, say, sports. You have coaches and managers are basically white because they really think about the words and the planning of how they want their teams to work. Where most of your athletes playing are black. So it kind of goes into the thinking process. Now, of course, there's exceptions for everybody on anything I ever say. So now I'm going to go into men and women. Men are hot, women are cold. And most men know that women are always cold. And so I want you to think of words as wooding sticks. And every time a woman uses the word, he sets the stick on fire because it keeps her warm. So a woman will want at least 1,000 or 2,000 words or sticks to catch fire to keep themselves warm with. A man, on the other side, doesn't need to be as warm, so he doesn't need maybe 500 words. So he will use up his fire for what he needs. Now, this is where men and women run into problems between the Venus of Venus and Mars. When a woman is with a man, she wants more conversation than the man wants to give to the woman. So that causes them problems between it because the woman gets excited and wants hotter and hotter, and she starts more words, which means more sticks are being burned. The man has already had his limit of sticks being burned, so he wants to stop it. So that's when the man gets silent with women because they're tired of the heat because it's too much heat for them. So the men and women, you have to, I guess what I'm trying to get to is men love women. And a lot of times they'll just sit there quietly and let the women talk. And just every now and then look at them and go, yeah, okay. Without really paying a whole lot. They know what they're saying, but they're not really absorbing it because they don't want to waste the wood in their brain burning. And the women, if they're not getting the attention they want from the men, they will cause chaos with the man to make him speak with her to where she can burn more sticks of wood. And the man does not want to burn anymore because he's exhausted. So the point I'm trying to get at is that men and women need to understand that about each other, that the man needs more quiet time than a woman. Now, you do have some women who do like cold weather. Now, that woman will take more time in thinking of the words that she uses instead of just burning up wooden sticks. So, anyway, that's kind of enough of my talk. Maybe I went too deep for this one. But anyway, that's my talk. All right, Jeff. Hello?
You gasp in shock when they do.
Machiavelli taught us if your opponent cheats, the entire structure of the game has been rearranged subconsciously. It is your job to notice this rearrangement, and instead of calling it out, to play by these new rules.
But the irony is, as Machiavelli mentioned, that the system itself is corrupt, yet the standard human still believes in playing well within the means of the system. Mr. Beast, Bill Gates, Leonardo DiCaprio, my pet fish, what do they all have in common? The moral brag. The moral brag is a key part of moral entrapment in the West. Having humans who act like they are morally superior creates a gold rush for moral attention, so false morality becomes a currency. This is why so many people film themselves helping the homeless. They are trying to gain unseen social credit. One would ask, where then lies the real morality of long ago, and does it even exist? And I would say it lies beyond the bishops, the fake celebrities, and the fake philanthropists, and inside your very body where God lives. Genuine morality, therefore, is witnessed by the source of all creation and has to be something that you come to terms with yourself, with the Creator. God or source sees all moral obstruction, because what Machiavelli didn't mention is this: when something as sacred as morality is used the wrong way, there will be consequences.
That's really good stuff. That's really interesting stuff. And the bottom line really is that we're playing a game that is not our game. And worse than that, we're playing a game according to their rules. And specifically with the folk and kin, or the heathen people, we've been playing too nice for too long in the Christian game. It's been 1,000 years. So it's time for us to stop playing their game. And it's time for us to stop playing according to their rules. And life is a game. We just have to start playing our game by our rules. And that's how we win. It's not always easy, but that's how we win in the long run.
He was throwing holy blows on him.
This shocking fight doesn't have any audio because it was taken from a surveillance camera. It captures a brawl breaking out near the city of Central. Punches being thrown before both men fall to the ground. Investigators say one of the men throwing punches is well-known pastor Tony Spell of Life Tabernacle Church. Moments before those punches broke out, another video shows Spell charging at the man. The father of the alleged victim gave the WAFBI team this video with no sound. Spell was arrested shortly after the fight and charged with second-degree battery. Cameras were rolling as deputies took him into custody. These pictures, also provided to us by Scott Sherwin, the father of the young man, are the end result of that brawl, which he says required his 20-year-old son to receive 5 stitches in his chin. Sherwin told the WAFBI team there's been a long-standing feud that's gone on between Spell and his family.
I'm glad we listened to God and not the governor.
Pastor Tony Spell made headlines and became nationally famous when he defied COVID restrictions during the height of the pandemic in 2020. Spell was charged with 6 million.
You can call me a bad guy, but I love to see Christian hypocrisy. I really love to see Christian hypocrisy, and I just don't understand why most Christians don't have any problem. They're probably defending their pastor. What would Jesus do? Jab, 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 right cross, jab, jab, uppercut, evidently. What happened to turn the other cheek, bruh? What happened to love your neighbor as yourself? Come on, how much rope are you going to give these people? You're going to give them enough rope to hang yourself. And there again, we got a black presenter bringing us some truth.
So I'm here with Alex and Sam. And that didn't go the way that we wanted to. Unfortunately, in the state of Oregon, sending a picture of to a literal child is not illegal unless you're actually cranking your hog in it. That cop really tried though, right?
He did. You know, we knew we had limited evidence on this guy because he...
So did you guys get that? In the state of Oregon, it's not illegal to send a picture of your genitalia to a minor. It's only a crime if you are manipulating your genitalia when you send it to the miner. That's your great state of Oregon, ladies and gentlemen.
That's why they removed copper from swimming pools, because they realized that copper was so antibacterial that it was completely purifying the water that the people were swimming in without all of the harmful effects of chlorine, which we also know is a $1 trillion industry. But also, when the copper was rested in the swimming pools, copper ions were being absorbed into the water, which hold an electrical charge. Therefore, when people were swimming in these pools, their bodies were absorbing this charged water, and we are electrical beings. Therefore, the water that they were swimming in and bathing in was instantaneously healing their bodies. And so if we then think about copper pipes, which are being completely erased, it then makes perfect sense, because the elites realize that when water flows through copper pipes, that water then becomes charged water, creating some of the most powerful water in the world, purifying it to a level no other material can match. This is another reason why farmers would place copper in their livestock's water bowls.
Wow, how many of you knew that? I learned something new. And on my to-do list for tomorrow is getting some of the copper that I used to make the rods with, and nobody is buying rods anymore, even though they're still for sale. If I get the link up, I'm going to put some copper into the cold plunge, because it's got to be good for that too, right? You learn something new every day if you're quick.
Excuse me, sir. Can we have lunch together? What? Can we have lunch together? It'll be kosher. We can have a kosher meal together. Excuse me, sir. Would you like to have lunch together? Would you like to have lunch together? Lunch? Would you want to have lunch together, me and you? No? Excuse me, sir. Would you like to have lunch together? Hey, guys. Shalom.
Okay, there's a couple things here. Number one, I understand the Christians trying to flex on the Jews. The Jews won't eat with us. That makes the Jews really, really bad people. That makes the Jews really, really bad people. But did you know the same Christian making these videos, well, he must not have read his Bible, which isn't surprising, because 95% of Christians never do read their Bible cover to cover. Because he might have noticed in 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 11, do not associate with anyone who's an idolater. And they consider anybody that's not a Christian an idolater. With such a man, do not even eat. So the Christians wouldn't have lunch with the Jew either. That's called hypocrisy. And of course, it's okay to go to the church of a guy that beats people up. And then, the Jesus character said we got to have 2 or 3 witnesses to confirm. So 2 Thessalonians 3:6 says, we command you, brothers. It's just like the Jewish commandment. In the name of plastic Jesus, keep away from anybody that leads a life that's not in keeping with the tradition that you receive from us. That's hypocrisy. Let's make a video of the Jews saying they won't eat with us, while at the very same time, our own doctrine says to do the same thing that the Jews are doing. Is that just being slow? Is that just being lazy? Or is that being contradictory? I don't think any of those choices are good. And it's hard for me to believe that people actually believe this stuff. So I try to go out of my way to present Christian absurdities to your ability to consider them for yourselves.
That's why they removed copper from swimming pools, because they...
Excuse me, sir. Can we have lunch together?
What?
Nothing is what it seems. The British family, Prince Charles the whole British family were being investigated for the Epstein Island. Although we call it Epstein Island, it really wasn't his island. It was actually financed by the British royal family, one of them. The other one that I know of is Bill Gates. This is what I've seen on a remote view. So this is not like this is allegedly, this is remote view information. The remote view also, what I also saw is that Prince Charles, through this investigation, actually killed himself. He drank liquid and bye-bye Prince Charles. Catherine at that time started to wake up. So the reason she was in hospital so much is she started to break out of mind control, and she wanted out of the British royal family. Because she started to find out that actually the British royal family were involved with child trafficking, paedophilia, murder, and this is all being linked to the Epstein Island. What else? Remember that day in London with those horses and the white horses that had all blood down them? That was the day that they said goodbye to Prince Charles, and the power of the British royal family was actually transferred to the Vatican.
Now that's fascinating stuff. Even though we can't say it's 100% verified, it's very fascinating, and it definitely bears some thinking.
It does seem to me suspicious, for example, that the Gospel of Mark, which is the earliest Gospel, contains no post-resurrection appearances. And then the Gospel of Matthew does include post-resurrection appearances. The Gospel of Luke includes even more. It's only in the Gospel of John that we get, for instance, Doubting Thomas, which is the latest Gospel, canonical Gospel, I should say. That's where that arises. And in fact, the story of Doubting Thomas, famously, he doesn't believe that it's the risen Christ. And Jesus says, "Come and touch my wounds." And he touches his wounds and he says, "My Lord and my God." And Jesus says, "You believe because you've seen. Blessed are those who believe without seeing." So in my view, what we have is this so-called mythological development of no post-resurrection appearances. And as the time goes on, as we get further away from the source, the stories get more fantastical, ending in a moral lesson to believe without evidence. Seeing. Yes, this to me does seem a little bit suspicious.
That's the understatement of the year, a little bit suspicious. So the earliest gospel has no mention of Jesus getting up from a dirt nap. And then as the Gospels get later, then full-blown into John, and there's probably at least 50 years between the first Gospel and the Gospel of John. By the end of the Gospel of John, not only did he take a dirt nap, not only did he get up from a dirt nap, but now the people that are really the best, they believe without evidence. And ultimately, that is what Christianity is calling upon you to do, to believe without evidence. And if you want to believe in Christianity without evidence, that's your business. My business is to let you know that you're believing in Christianity without evidence. And my other business, and this business is a booming, is to let you know that they know they want you to believe without evidence. And to point out this hypocrisy and to point out this psyop. Christianity is the biggest psyop ever perpetuated on the human race. And you know, even Paul said that faith is belief without evidence. And if you want to do that, that's up to you. But don't call yourself a Christian truther, because you can't be a Christian truther. A truther is a person that looks for evidence. A Christian is a person that ignores evidence. And those are just facts. And as Tracy Dyer famously coined long ago, facts don't care about your feels.
Psychology says the first part of your name can reflect parts of your personality. Take the letter J, for example. In letter psychology J, spirituality and name numerology see this letter as the vibration of joy, justice, and journey. It represents a spark of divine curiosity. People with J energy often lead with intuition and optimism, yet they carry a deep desire to make things right. They're the storytellers, dream builders, and wanderers who learn through motion. Their ideas don't sit still, and neither do they. When J appears in your name, it whispers that your path unfolds through faith in the unseen, trusting the process even when the map isn't clear. And as you move forward, the J loops back, reminding you that every step you take becomes part of someone else's light, a subtle cycle that never truly ends.
And of course, my name begins with a J, so I found this to be especially poignant for me. And when you look at me and look at the assertions of this little video, they line up. Pretty interesting stuff. Pretty interesting stuff. So let's do a little bit of follow-up tonight. And this came to us from Colleen. And Colleen talked about, and this goes back to our Blood Over Intent deprogram. It's on this channel. This goes back to our Vampires deprogram, which is also on this channel. And Colleen reminds us that King Charles is a descendant of Vlad the Impaler, who was hailed as a Christian hero, and even jokes about it. And do you know that King Charles, when he got christened, became king, he was anointed with holy oil from Jerusalem. King Charles himself was even circumcised by a mohel. And if you follow the trail, Queen Elizabeth, therefore, was a descendant of King James, the King James Version King James, which means that King James Version King James was also a descendant of Vlad the Impaler. And we know that Christians drink the blood of Jesus, and those that say they do so symbolically are actually getting into the deeper black magic than those that say that it's literal. So Queen Elizabeth also, when she was alive, she forbade the presence of any garlic around her. And to this day, the royal family always carries their own blood with them whenever they travel. And Colleen also reminds us, as I talked on the last deep program on Sunday, about the book of life, the word book really meaning bark. So it's really the book of life, and that tree in the garden, if there was a tree, was really called the tree of life and the knowledge of good and evil. It was just one tree. And Colleen reminded me of something that I forgot about. Charlemagne, who was the focus of our last deep program, famously cut down the great heathen Yggdrasil tree, and he famously unalived heathens. And you can go on the channel, look for this link, this thumbnail, and you can see that deprogram as well. And you know, we always bring receipts. King Charles has said that among his notable ancestors is Vlad the Impaler. And that connection, of course, intertwines the British monarchy with the legend of Dracula, which we covered big time on that Vampires deprogram. And the king has playfully acknowledged his ancestry in the past. When he was on an interview, then Prince Charles said, "The genealogy shows that I'm descended from Vlad the Impaler. So I have a bit of a stake in the country." So he acknowledges it. He jokes about it because he knows that you're too simple and slow to even care about it. And yes, King Charles was circumcised by a mohel in December of 1948, which is the same year that Israel became a nation, by the way. Queen Elizabeth employed Dr. Yakov Snowman, interesting name, to come to Buckingham Palace and to perform the circumcision on the man who would be king. You don't hear this stuff anywhere else. You can't make this stuff up. And here's the receipts. She forbade garlic. The chefs were under strict orders to never have any garlic in the palace. And we all know that heathen lore tells us that vampires are repelled by garlic. Christians drink blood. Wow, Jesus has to be invited in just like Dracula. It's all in the Vampires Disclosure and the Blood Over Intent deprograms. Check those out. And she summed this up with the Order of the Dragon. That was Vlad the Impaler's order. Dragons are reptiles. And the British royal line goes all the way back to the Dracula legends. And did you know that Christian identity and Christian nationalism started as a movement called British Israelism? Because Britain was large and in charge. And then it was Britain that was the original chosen people. Now the Britain's fallen off and America has taken the ascendancy. Now it's the Americans that are the real Christians, the chosen people. And this is what the Christian nationalists and the Christian identities think. And they are all blood-drinking Christians. So if you connect the dots, you have to say, are they also of reptilian heritage? And we also talked about on Blood Over Intent sprinkling your blood on a paper with an intention that you wrote. And Jim mentioned that many times it's burned, which is very true. And it's nothing new because the Israelites sprinkled their sacrifices with blood and they put salt on them as well. Why is salt important? Because remember, we talked about Jesus saying that his believers are the salt of the earth. So a man has blood and a man has salt. So a man is really both blood and salt, isn't he? And this brought up a curious thing that Colleen noticed that I hadn't. Abraham, when he went to sacrifice his only son Isaac, because God, the God of love, told him to, he went to sacrifice his son, but he didn't bring any salt with him. Why wouldn't he bring any salt with him? Is that because human believers are both sacrifice and salt? They're both blood and salt. And what if the word, and I've said this before, but I didn't get into the etymology of it. What if the word ram, remember Abraham was stopped from sacrificing his son in the act? And I mean, if you look upon a woman lustfully and you've already committed adultery, if you're bringing the knife down to stab your son, haven't you already committed murder? Again, we get into Christian contradictions. But what if I could show you that the word ram, which replaced Isaac, Abraham's son, was actually a man and a heathen man? Well, if you look at the word H352 in your Strong's Concordance, the H stands for Hebrew. That word here is ram. And Abraham got a ram, and he offered up that ram as a burnt offering instead of his son. And that word ram, 352, you can see its basic etymology is a mighty man. A mighty man. Notice it says a mighty man. And repeatedly in the Old Testament, the heathens from Genesis 6 on are referred to as mighty men. So Christians, you got some thinking to do. But I know you don't think too much, but maybe some of you will think. So let's get in now to the rapture of the body snatchers. Are you ready? But we got to start with the salvation and the body snatcher. Because Romans 12:1 says, I beseech you, very strong language, I implore you, by the mercies of God, that you present your body as a living sacrifice. And then it says, that's your reasonable service. In what mind is it reasonable to present yourself as a sacrifice, your body as a sacrifice? God's a body snatcher. The God of the Bible is a body snatcher. And then when you start thinking, how the hell can that be? Well, that's where the rest of the verse in Romans 12:1 comes in. Don't be conformed to this world. Don't use your brain, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. What is the renewing of the mind in Christian terms? It is taking every thought captive to the obedience of Jesus. That's how your mind is transformed. And then you can't think anymore. As Steve says in the chat, you can't think anymore. And then all you think and all that you're able to process is the will of what the God of the Bible wants you to do. And remember, we need two witnesses. So Romans 8:11. If the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead, that's supposedly the Father, if he lives in you, do you really think the God of your God, your Bible God, actually lives in you? Jesus says, I, my Father, will come live in you. Do you think they physically climb and live into you? No. How do they enter you? They enter you as spiritual entities. Now, when you have any other spiritual entities coming into you, my Christian friends, those are demons and they're bad. How is it any different if the Father and Jesus come into you as entities? And then they said that if you let us come in and possess you, then your mortal body, look that word up in Romans 8:11, like we just did in the other word. That means your body, which is subject to death. You're not going to get resurrected to anything other than the body that you're in now. And they're going to keep using you over and over and over until you can't be of use anymore. So salvation is a body snatching, and the God of the Bible is a body snatcher. You really can't argue that. You really can't argue that. I wonder if you might want to think about that a little bit. So we're going to get in now to the rapture subject. And of course, the classic text of that is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. Now, Paul in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, he had a really, really, really big problem. He had a really, really, really big problem. He had a big problem. And Paul was facing, evidently, some type of uprising amongst disgruntled believers. Because he said to them, he said, look, I would not have you to be ignorant concerning them which are asleep, that you sorrow not. They were worried about the believers that had supposedly already died in Jesus. Because if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even those that preceded us in death, Jesus is going to bring with them. For this we say to you, that we who continue to be alive, we're not going to prevent or come before those that died before us in Jesus. And then we get to the classic. Then we get to the classic rapture text, which is verse 16. It's verse 16. And verse 16 says, the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, and with the voice of the archangel. The trump of God will sound, the dead in Christ will rise first, and then we who are alive and remain will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Then he says in verse 18, which of course is a 9, comfort one another with these words. And Jama, of course, points out the word rapture is not mentioned anywhere in the Bible. So Paul was trying to put out a fire, and this fire has become the leading doctrine, one of the leading doctrines of Christians today. And that's really a fascinating observation, because most scholars, at least the objective ones, think that something specific had happened in the church at Thessalonica and that Paul had to put out this fire. We don't want you to be uninformed, he said. We don't want you to be ignorant, even though they really do want you to be ignorant. They go to great lengths to keep you that way. But we don't want you to worry about those that have fallen asleep. Paul isn't introducing this rapture topic out of nowhere. He wasn't trying to bring up a new doctrine. He's responding to something that people were complaining about in the church. And the traditional explanation is that the Thessalonians had expected Jesus to return in their lifetime because he said he would return in their lifetime. And then when people started dying, they're like, wait a second, something's wrong. Jesus said he was going to come back in this generation. He hasn't. We're all almost dead. So the people wondered not only for their own selves, but what about those that have died? What about us? Have we missed it? Have we been left behind? Was this whole thing a lie? So Paul got caught with his theological pants down. Paul got caught in the dissolution of a psyop. Jesus clearly told the people that were living during the time that he did that he would return in power and glory during their lifetime. But yet he didn't. And the church was going crazy. And then Paul has to think on his feet and craft a new doctrine to cover it. No. The dead in Christ are going to rise first. Then those who are still alive won't have any advantage. That's what fits with the natural reading of these verses, but it goes even deeper than that. It's even more dramatic than that. You got to remember the context, because Paul had only been in Thessalonica a short time before they literally drove him out. Riots started. His buddy's house was attacked. Paul had to run out of Thessalonica at night. The congregation was unstable because they figured out the lie. This dude said he was coming back in this generation, and he ain't. He ain't. Paul was trying to calm down an increasingly anxious movement. And then he says, comfort one another with these words, because he was in a crisis. So they thought that the day of the Lord had already come. Paul had to go so far in two scriptural verses to give a tongue lashing to people that are saying the resurrection has already happened. The early church was confused. And I would argue that the modern church is even more confused, because these people that saw that the whole thing were at least smart enough to say it ain't happening like they said it would. But today, Christians have the ability to look back and see that it didn't happen like they said it would. But instead of thinking, they buy the lie and they buy the patch on the original information. Are you really that kind of a person? Are you really that kind of a person? So Paul began to tell people, don't worry about it. Work with your own hands. I know you expected Jesus to come back immediately. And like has happened and happens every time we get the rapture in 88, the blood moons, the September 2000, 2020, that September 23rd, 2000, and whatever it was. Just like at the beginning, the believers stopped planting crops. Why should we build a business? Why should we save money? Because Jesus is coming. And you even hear these things today. It got so bad that Paul had to say, look, if you won't work, you can't eat. Because things were falling apart. They were disappointed because the words of Jesus weren't coming true, if he was even a real dude. They were worried because the prophecies weren't coming true. They were confused by the prophecies not coming true. And Paul's letters were really damage control. So how damaged are the people that still believe it today when they could look back and see that from the very beginning of Christianity, people figured out something's broken, but yet you still continue to believe in a broken system. And it's so bad that Paul, even then at that late date, after people were saying, hey, look, he didn't come back, Paul says, oh, no. Those of us who are alive and remain till the coming of the Lord, let's be generous. Let's say Thessalonians was written in 100. It was written 50, 60. So even in 50, 60, Paul was saying, oh, no. You misunderstood Jesus, but he's coming back in our lifetime. Paul obviously believed that Jesus would return in his lifetime. But now today's Christians are forced to argue and they're forced to believe. They're really not forced, but they choose to believe that Paul was simply he was just going along to get along. You misunderstood. Let me create some new dates. But the wording shows that an imminent expectation was present. So much so that Paul had to say, oh, no, but it will happen within our lifetime. How many times will you continue to believe in a theological structure that falls apart and has to be rebuilt? That's up to you. That's up to you. When history kept moving, the theology fell apart, and Christians were forced to adapt it, change it, patch it up, baby. Yeah, they're good at rationalizing. This is why they don't want you reading the Bible. This is why 95% of Christians don't read it. Because if you do read it, And especially if you read it in chronological order, you understand the whole thing fell apart before it even got started. And yet, you continue to believe it, and you continue to call yourself a truther. Christians were worried because people were all dying before Jesus was returning. They thought the whole thing was a lie. They thought they were going to miss the coming. And there were actually people saying, "What's wrong with you? Can't you see this is a lie?" And again, here I am today, still saying the same things to the same simpletons. To the same simpletons. The early church was a community under intense pressure, wrestling with unmet expectations, and they were getting persecuted allegedly. And they realized that Jesus either lied to them or he was wrong. So the people came to Paul and said, Jesus said he'd come back before we died. We're all dying. Paul said, "Oh, no, you misunderstood. He meant that he'll come back in my time, our time, before we die, us young people." And now Christians today have accepted the patch to the patch. Oh, no, he meant they're going to come back in the future. How many lies are you willing to believe? How many lies are you willing to believe? And this starts to get us into the actual body snatcher rapture. Because if you read 1 Thessalonians 4:16, it sounds like a military event. Because, and I'll show you the Greek words here, because the words, the Lord himself shall descend with a shout, the words actually command. Here's the word in Greek. And the voice of the archangel. Those are military terms. The shout one means a shout of command, an order. That's the only time it appears in the New Testament. That word was used in context to be orders issued by officers to troops. It's not merely someone shouting loud. It's an authoritative military order that demands obedience. And of course, that echoes Paul's words in Romans 12:1 of being a living sacrifice. The imagery is like, oh, Jesus calling gently. But the reality is Jesus giving an order. And of course, this feeds the silly modern Christian nationalist, Christian identityist, warrior LARP live action role play. The voice of the archangel is always in the Bible, except here, associated with judgment, warfare, deliverance, and resurrection. It's tied to royalty and to military authority. The whole thing's broken from the beginning, and yet we still continue, those of you that are Christians still continue to believe it. And they actually stole this word from the heathens too, just like gospel, just like evangelism. Those are Roman words, specifically from the Roman emperor cult. Gospel means good news of the victories of the heathens. Evangelism means telling the good news of the victories of the heathens. So these words, the shout of God, the trump of the archangel, those were also the same words used by the Roman armies for their battlefield commands. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And I have to ask myself, why can't smart people see this? It's pretty obvious that Paul is talking military language here. And it gets even deeper. Watch this. Because the word that says that we will meet Jesus in the air, that word, every single place it's used in the New Testament, means that you meet somebody and you continue on with them to their destination. And the rapture teaches that we meet the Lord in the air and go back with him. but the word means we meet him in the air and accompany him to earth. So this popular idea that believers are whisked away to heaven for years is a deliberately fostered psyop understanding on Christian people. And it aligns with our Charlemagne Millennium observations in our Missing 1,000 Years deprogram. You should look that up and watch it. You should look that up and watch it. Even parousia, which is the word for Jesus's presence, guess where they stole it from? The Roman Empire, the emperor cult. Just like they stole gospel, just like they stole evangelism. And I have to ask you, what does this say about the Christian? What does it say about the Christian religion? They steal all our words. They steal all our words. They can't even make up their own words. What does this say to you about the Christian religion? I'd really like to know. I'd really like to know what this says to you about the Christian religion and why you're okay with it. Today, we're taught that the rapture, most people say it's going to be a secret rapture. Poof, we're gone. And yet, the classic rapture text has a commanding shout, an archangel's voice, God's trumpet. It's public, it's dramatic. And yet today, the dominant teaching of the rapture is a secret rapture. Oh, Jeff, it's only the believers that hear it. Oh, so I see it. God's going to use a dog whistle, which might fit because the Proto-Abrahamics call Christians dogs, don't they? All Gentiles are dogs. Are you a dog? Waiting for the special little whistle? I happen to think you're better than that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. And it's a militaristic verse, which shows at the end they know they're going to have to try to take it by force, just like the way they grew their religion, marching out behind the holy so-called Roman Empire and telling people either convert or you're going to get killed. The very language of the rapture text is military. It's imperial. And so is Christianity. The overall effect is the arrival of a victorious king issuing an order, not a secret appearance of believers. No, James Paul was not a Roman soldier unless he was Josephus, and Josephus was a Jewish soldier. You could argue he became compliant with the Romans. So the rapture it's a body snatching operation. You really can't argue around that. In today's Christian warriors, here's a little editorial. You know, if you go on Twitter and you go on TikTok and you ask these people to come on and discuss, you open up phone lines and ask them to call. It's obvious that today's so-called Christian warriors are great at putting up memes. They're great at LARPing and dressing up in warrior costumes, coats of armor, but they're obviously not up for any battle. The only battle they can stand is a tightly controlled and scripted Twitter or YouTube meme war. They can't even make a phone call. So this has me asking the question, since today's Christian warriors are so cowardly, is the rapture going to be a body snatcher replacement of the current crop of sorry Christian cowards with entities that are veterans of Rabbi Laitman's earlier Proto-Abrahamic invention? Is this what their sleeper cells? Let's call in. Let's see who's calling. Let's see who's calling. You didn't follow the instructions, but
Call from.
Go ahead and defender.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
You're live with Jeffrey Daugherty. What's on your mind?
Hello, good sir. How are you, Mr. Daugherty?
I'm okay. What's on your mind?
Well, I was thinking back to the last time when you got upset about Sophia and what I said, but I really wanted to know, to try to pin down how you got to where you are. What was your eschatology or your theologia in the old church, and where did you come from to get to where you are now?
Why does that matter to you? Why are you wanting to deflect the discussion to that? Why does it matter what I used to believe versus what I believe now?
Because I'm trying to understand the transition you made so that I can demarcate it on a map of understanding.
First of all, may I ask you a question?
Sure.
Have you ever read the entire Bible cover to cover?
Not in one time, because you can read something that fast and not mean anything, but I've read quite a bit of it. So
you've never read the Bible cover to cover?
I've read it. I've read more of it than once. I mean, I've probably read more of it than just one cover or the other.
Can you just answer
this more than one
question?
time.
Have you ever read the Bible cover to cover? Have you read every single word in the Bible?
I probably have. Yeah.
I've
read more parts more than other.
I'm going to call that a no, because you're not willing to say yes. So just
because I can't be certain that I didn't miss like one verse or something. So I don't like to be a liar. You know,
I've got a bookcase full of books over here, and I can tell you
yes
or no that I've read them or I haven't read them. So I'm just trying to get a historical demarcation on you, because you're calling up here questioning me about a book that I've spent 200,000 hours in, and you haven't read it once. So that just kind of gives us a context.
I didn't say I hadn't read it once.
Yes,
I've read quite a bit of it many times.
You said
no.
You said you've never read the whole thing. You won't say yes to
the
whole Bible.
Because I don't like to be a liar and say, well, if I missed one chapter or one book once, or I don't know a single line, that I didn't read it.
Well, we're going to call that a no. We're going to call that a no.
Okay. Well, you can go ahead and do that if that's what you want to do.
Well, that's what you just said. So,
yeah.
But the point is...
No, I didn't say that.
You got to be polite.
I am polite.
Well, I get to judge polite, and you're bordering on getting hung up on. So you won't even answer a question.
Are you the arbiter of polite? I guess
this is my damn show. Yes, I am the arbiter.
I know. I just wanted to ask you how you got to your theology and where your background came from. That's all. And you wanted to turn it into, you don't know everything. Ha ha ha! I can't even talk about it.
What I'm doing is refusing to be drawn into your false frame, and I'm reframing this conversation of a guy that hasn't even read the Bible once, trying to call a guy in the carpet that has 200,000 hours of studying the scripture. So
you're reframing those Jesuit glasses, right? You need new frames.
Okay, you're obviously, I'm going to let that one go. That's an idiot troll statement. But you obviously haven't done any more research on me than you've done on the Bible, because I've said 1,000 times that I spent 25 years as a Pentecostal evangelist. I believed initially in the secret rapture.
Okay, see, now you told me something. You're Pentecostal. See, that's all I was asking, man.
If you interrupt me again, I'm going to hang up on you.
Always say.
Well, at least you said something that reveals your true nature there. So then I studied and continued to study and continued to read and found out that the secret rapture was a lie. And then I studied and continued to study and saw that Paul was probably Josephus, if he existed at all. Then I studied and found out that there's no historical evidence outside of the Bible for Jesus. So now I realized, by the time I went on Coast to Coast AM for the first time, that Christianity is a made-up fictional religion that is victimizing all the great heathen peoples, and they're being deceived.
Heathens.
They're being deceived. People that aren't Christian, that's a heathen. So do you have any
well,
other...
I know that.
You're interrupting.
Let me ask you something.
Do you have
Well, you talk forever, though.
It's
I have
my
questions.
show, and I'm telling you, you're going to get hung up on. So now that you
I
understand my
know.
historical progress, do you have a damn question?
Yes.
What is it?
So you started
White
from
is
Word of
right. Why
Faith.
don't you shut up or call in? It's not a write-in show. It's a call-in show. At
Okay.
least this guy has the guts to call in. That's why I'm being so
So-
gracious to you.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome very much.
Because I am actually curious.
Okay.
And you did say you came from Word of Faith. I know a little bit about that.
I was a Jimmy Swaggart guy. Jimmy Swaggart, I worked for him. He's my spiritual mentor, if you will.
Okay. So do you think that Christianity was cooked the whole time, or only now do you know about the differences, the changes in doctrine over the years? I mean, was it always a subversive movement? Is that what you've come to believe?
Well, since you haven't read the whole book and I spent 200,000 hours in it, the answer is yes, it is cooked. And if you get on this channel and watch the interviews, especially with Joseph Atwill of Caesar's Messiah, it was absolutely cooked from the beginning. Just like we just showed you with Paul. Jesus said, I'm coming in your lifetime. He didn't. Paul said, no, I mean, he meant he's coming in our lifetime. He didn't. And now people that are still Christians are believing a patch of a patch of a patch. And the only thing that keeps Christianity going is that people haven't read the Bible. The best cure for getting out of Christianity is reading the Bible.
So, what is your take on the 79 weeks of Daniel, 490 years from Daniel 9, and the prophecy that shows to the year when Christ was sacrificed?
No, it doesn't.
The temple was destroyed, and the stoning of Stephen.
No,
what do you think about that?
It was written after all of that happened. They
proved it was written in Babylon, didn't they?
No, they didn't. It is a
yeah?
proto-Abrahamic fairy tale that you haven't done the study required to be able to know that, and you don't want to listen to anybody that's giving you information.
Well, if I didn't want to listen to anyone, I probably wouldn't be talking to you or even questioning the other takes.
Well, I answered your question, and why do you think you're still talking?
That's a good question. I guess you enjoy some banter, maybe, regardless.
I enjoy people that are willing to think, and the idea is I'm not here to win an argument with you. I'm here to present one side. This is called dialectic discourse. I present my side, people hear your side, and regardless of whether you and I agree or not, people can hear the information from both sides and make their own damn decision. That's all I'm about. If you want to be a Christian, that's your business. But I want as many people as possible to hear both sides of the story and make their own choice. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Well, you said you're not agnostic, but you're a deist. And I remember last time you said deist something, and I forgot the second word. My fault. And you said Irish heathen. So I was wondering if you could quantify that again for me going forward.
Very fair question. I resist labeling generally. I don't want to put a label on myself. I'm this, I'm that. But if I had to label myself, I would say that I'm generally a deist. That's a person that believes in an almighty supreme deity. But my Irish heritage and the heathen call of my blood that I feel also gives me an affinity towards my Irish gods and goddesses and my ancestors. So I can't really say I'm a deist because deists wouldn't lean towards an ancestral pantheon necessarily, but I'm not just a Irish pantheon observer because I believe it goes beyond that. And I'm even now coming to the place where I'm pretty convinced that the gods and goddesses like the great Dagda, Danu, Dawn, Bridget, Morgan, they're probably archetypes, maybe even ancestors, and are probably more like demigods, representatives to each people, and the black people, the brown people, the red people, the yellow people, they all have their own. And I think that our gods and goddesses are really our ancestors bringing us into an understanding to get us to step outside of the Judeo-Christian fear and guilt, blood magic, mind control, to break us out of that virus and understand that as our gods are, they used to be just like us. So it's a progression from realizing who you are as a human and progressing into a state of demigodness, if you will, divine, sovereign, free, and understanding that you're serving an ultimate divine high God.
Okay, so you have a different paradigm than Gnosticism or the
Absolutely.
demiurge.
Gnosticism is too Abrahamic for me.
Okay, so stepping outside of the boundaries, is it inconceivable that there's a mystery hidden in the simple that confounds the wise, and that maybe a mystery is even laden in the Bible that is not about the ancient Israelites, because they're not the Canaanites, and also modern Christianity has been subverted many times in many angles.
But it's
But
a
could you
subverted
conceive?
subversion.
But could you conceive there's a nut of like a little acorn of truth hidden in the mix?
No. And here's
No.
why.
Okay.
Here's
So you
why.
say no. All right.
It was a lie from the beginning, man. The
Wow.
only nugget, the only truth that's in the Bible is called kosher disclosure. And because you have to understand that when Christianity showed up at the very, very earliest 2,000 years ago, there had already been about 48,000 years at least of human history. And there never been anything remotely
48,000? Really?
at least 48,000. And there'd never been anything like Christianity ever.
I didn't know we could prove that much time, but okay, carry on.
We can prove that much time. I also have a minor degree in geography, which means I had to study into archaeology, and I had to study the scientific method. So we can prove.
So erosion doesn't discredit the earth creation, so it keeps building itself back up.
You keep asking me questions when I'm trying to give you a response. Now, the idea, first of all, you haven't even read the Bible. Second of all,
no, I've read quite a bit of it, and more than once and many times.
You haven't
so it's
read
not
the
like
whole,
I haven't read.
You haven't read the whole Bible.
No, I only said that to be an honest person, to say.
You know, I gave him way more time than he deserved. But the observable fact is that he hasn't even read the Bible once, and yet he's so convinced that it's true that he's actually possessed of confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance. And when he's not a real truther, and that's not a slap, because a real truther is somebody that looks at the data. But this guy has already decided what he thinks is true, and he's only willing to look at things that align with his preconceived frame. And that was probably one of the best discussions I've ever had with a Christian before. Probably one of the best discussions I've ever had with a Christian before. Hold on 1 second. I have to share the screen so people can hear you. Give me 1 second before you start speaking. Give me 1 second. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to make kind of conversation about the guy before.
Okay.
You know, he is at the edge of understanding reality.
I hope so.
And he's being fractured.
Yes.
And when you're fractured in the beginning, it is a lost place to go because you don't know where to take your heart after that. So I know I've read the Bible through a couple of times from end to end.
Yep.
And the more I read it, the further it pushed me away.
Absolutely.
Because it did not make sense to me. At the point, it's going like, why do we have to have all these riddles for us to understand God when we have to make it in a way that we can't understand God?
Absolutely.
That was that was a big thing for me.
And me too,
So-
Jim. And as you say this, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
Sure.
that guy is right where I was 15 years ago. Because if I had been that guy that believed what he did, and I heard a guy like me on the radio and he opened the phones, I would have been calling and making the same arguments he was. So you're right. And that's, intuitively, even though I didn't know it really necessarily in my mind, that's why I was giving him so much grace. You make a very, very good point, and that increases my empathy for that individual because I was him. Please continue.
Well, when I was a little kid, I could not even set the Bible down hard. I always had to do so softly because I did not want to offend God.
Right.
I want to show so much respect to it because I loved it and believed it so much. And when I started learning that it wasn't, it left such a hole in me.
Yes.
I did not know what to do with it. And that's the problem with people who step out of creation, out of Christianity. They don't know what to do with it when it becomes emptied. And it's so difficult for people. The only thing I can say is you have to start understanding the spirit world. Even though I know the subject I said earlier, it's a little hard for people to understand. But the more you understand the human being and the spiritual world, you can start filling it up with truth.
Right.
You have to see truth and understand truth. And most people do not want to face it. There's things that illusion still holds me in certain things, and I know it, and I try to change it, and I try to break it. But it is so hard to do so. Even when you know it's wrong,
Yep.
you still want to hang on to something that you put so much love into that you have to let go of it. It's like you have a dog. I had a dog once. I loved him so much, but he was psycho. And out of the blue, he would go for my throat. That's what caused my problem with my words. Because he went for my throat, and I jumped back, and I hit the back of my head against a brick wall. And it bled heavily. It sounded like a watermelon busted on my head. I thought it was dead.
You got to put that dog down,
And
unfortunately.
I did. Well, I hate to say that I beat that dog so bad that for 2 weeks I had to pick him up the stairs to get him up and down. Then it made me feel so bad.
Terrible.
And then I found someone who would take them, and I got rid of them. But it's the same thing,
Yeah.
You have to know when to let go because it hurts you more than it helps you.
Jim, that's
And you got to
brilliant.
find ways. You got to find ways to bring your heart back into yourself and realize God is there. And
Yes.
don't think because you don't believe in Christianity, you don't believe in God. God is there.
Absolutely.
God's all around me. And anytime I get into my vehicle, I always thank God for looking over me. And when I come back, I thank God even more for protecting me. And that's why all the accidents I've told you about that I've had, I'm protected because I'm in touch with God and God's in touch with me.
That's beautiful.
And I've said enough, brother.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, brother. Bye-bye.
And that's the thing I struggle with, folks, because on the one hand, you've got these Christians, and Kylie said earlier, this guy's a troll. I don't know if he definitely was a troll, but, I've got the great heathen disease, being too nice to too many for too long. So I'm always fighting this battle of wanting to talk to everybody, but realizing that time is limited. And we don't have time to waste with everybody. We don't have time to waste with everybody. It's the whole mailman thing. I used to, the analogy I use is I used to go to every jail cell and throw the key in there and then open the door and, try to drag him out by the ear. No, I don't do that anymore. I am nicer than you sometimes, Kylie. So now I just throw the key into the cell. If they want to use it to get out, they can, but I'm not going to go into cells and drag people out by their ears anymore. I'm just not going to do it. And if that means hanging up on people, well, so be it, because I got a lot of work to do. And we don't have an infinite amount of time to do it. And I mean, we're not looking for everybody. We're not looking for everybody. We're just looking for people that are at the place where they can accept and receive truth. I'm no longer interested in giving spiritual aid and comfort to people that are actually part of Christian sleeper cells. Like Dead Wolf, I'm done wasting time. I'm done wasting time. But there's a lot of people right now, probably even including that guy potentially, that even though they're trying to understand, they're seeing some things, if it came to blows right now, they'd still be part of a Christian sleeper cell. They'd be standing right next to the little weasel, Andrew Wilson, ready to shoot us in the back. And I'm tired of the nonsense. I'm moving on. It's kind of like this. I don't know if you saw the Tom Cruise War of the Worlds movie, but there was a scene in that movie, which I can't find anywhere on the internet, and 6 of you will find it, but I can't find it anywhere on the internet. I don't know if you remember it or not, but there was this scene where the aliens were shooting beams that looked like they were just going into the ground. But somebody, I don't think it was Cruise, but some scientist slowed down the video. And what was actually happening was there were alien beings in those beams. They were kind of like Star Trek transporter beams, and they were transporting these people into vehicles that had been planted and buried on Earth long, long ago. And then they got into their vehicles, they started them up, and that's when you had all those tripods flying around. So could the rapture be a reverse body snatcher replacement of the current crop of cowardly Christians, like this white somebody in the chat thinks it's a write-in show, doesn't have the guts to call in, but just writes in like a coward? It ain't a write-in show, it's a call-in show. And if you don't have the balls to make the calls, you don't make the cut. But could the rapture be a reverse body snatcher replacement of the current crop of Christian cowards with entities that are veterans of Rabbi Laitman's proto-Abrahamic invasion that happened thousands of years ago? And are the Christians that give their bodies to Christ, and are the Christians that give their minds to Christ, and are really, they're not even alive anymore? Paul said, it's not me that lives, it's Christ that lives in me. Are they literally just NPC, empty bodies? And is the rapture more of a putting into these empty shells real ancient warrior souls of Rabbi Laitman's proto-Abrahamic invasion to fight a battle because they ain't got no damn real warriors left here now? They were beaming them down. Is that possible? I think it makes a whole lot of sense, especially when you say that it's the mortal bodies that are going to be resurrected. That's all the Bible promises, that the mortal bodies will be resurrected by the people that have allowed the Jesus and Father entities to possess them. And they will quicken those mortal bodies. That relates directly to what I'm saying about the rapture. Is the rapture the quickening that heightens back to the Highlander mythos, if you saw those movies and the TV show? Is the rapture really just a quickening of those mortal bodies of the cowards by people that will actually fight? And is this why Romans says, present your bodies a living sacrifice? Give them over to God, become an empty shell. So if you prove to be worthless, like the vast majority of Christians today, we can put a new entity in your body. And this gets back to something I didn't even see. Remember, Paul said the dead in Christ will rise first? The War of the Worlds aliens were going into buried vehicles. What is a dead Christian other than a buried vehicle? I'm crucified with Christ. I no longer live. but Jesus lives in me. Wow. 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 We may be getting on to something here tonight. We may be getting on to something here tonight. Because the Greek says, let me make this large. I know you can't really see it, but if you want to stop the video later, the word for mortal bodies is this Greek word here. And it means the physical body, that which is subject to death and will continue to die. I don't care how many times you get resurrected, you're still going to die. And this is very important because it doesn't mean anything other than the physical body. Paul's not speaking about immortality of the soul. He's speaking about immortality of the body. They're body snatchers. They're body snatchers. Most Christians say, oh, our souls go to heaven and we receive a new glorified body. But Paul says, whoa, wait a minute. We're going to use the body that you got, and that's going to be your body. It's the same body that is currently limited by mortality. That's going to be the same one. And this gets back into what we talked about in the Vampire deprogram, because believers are raised in the pattern of Jesus, according to Romans 8:29. And Jesus said, look, a spirit doesn't have flesh and bones, or flesh and blood, or doesn't have flesh and bones like you see that I have. Flesh and bones is almost universally accepted, even by Christian translators, as meaning it doesn't have blood. And we proved in the last D program, the blood over intent program, D program, that Jesus doesn't have blood. And that Jesus, as an egregore, relies on the body of the believers that offer themselves as living sacrifices. What's the difference between a dead sacrifice and a living sacrifice? Vampires can't drink dead blood. If you know anything about vampires, if you watch Interview with the Vampire, made it very clear, Christian vampires can't drink dead blood. What is a living sacrifice? It's an empty vessel that still pumps living blood. So are these believers that are also raised bloodless, but still in a flesh body, and the Bible tells us the life of the flesh is in the blood, I would submit to you that they too will have to become vampiric. They too will have to become vampiric, because a flesh body has to have blood to have life. That's what the Bible tells us. And that goes to our caller that called in. Was there any nuggets? There's a nugget for you, bro. It's called kosher disclosure. They're telling you that Jesus don't have no blood, that the people that offer themselves as living sacrifices provide his blood to keep his flesh nourished. And if you're in the rapture, you're going to have the same flesh and bone body that Jesus had, and you're still going to have to vampirize living entities for blood. And if we get back to the rapture, those that are the dead in Christ that arise first, they've got flesh and bone bodies, and maybe those that are alive and remain supply the blood for the dead in Christ that have risen in flesh and bone that still need blood, because that's the life of the flesh. This is the only reason that the Bible remains worth reading, but it only remains worth reading to the people that have got to the place where they can think. Understand and reason. Because if you're still possessed, I use that term metaphorically, if you're still possessed by, I believe the Bible's true, every word, if you're still cognitively dissonant, if you still have confirmation bias, you can read it 1,000 times and you'll never see it. Until I got to the place where I was free of cognitive bias, cognitive dissonance, and free of confirmation bias, only then could I begin to see these things. So in some sense, I would tell people, don't read the Bible until you're ready to objectively evaluate the Bible. And even our earlier caller who had the balls to make the calls, unlike these cowards that want to make this a write-in show. It's better if you don't read it. It's better if you don't read it. If you like this deprogram, hit the like button. If you hate it, hit the thumbs down button. Wow, this is really, really deep stuff. So the Lord descends from heaven with military commands, and this goes back to, I didn't see this, this goes back to the War of the Worlds. The dead in Christ, what if they're just injected with these? The dead in Christ rise, they get injected into those that are still alive and remain. And that forms the army. And man makes a great point. The Bible is encoded with a condemnation of Christianity. And until you're at least willing to entertain that idea, you can't see it. It's like being in a relationship. You fall in love and she's beautiful, he's beautiful, everything's great. And then 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, you start seeing the warts, so to speak. And these days, you might really start seeing some warts. That's why I don't believe in love at first sight. Because true love means you know somebody. And it's impossible for you at first sight to know anybody. But love at first sight might be an indicator, oh, this person might be somebody that I could have long-term compatibility with. But you don't really love them till you know them. You don't really love them till you know them. And that's why I've been with Cynthia almost 8 years now. Because the more I know her, the more I love her. It goes beyond her physical beauty. It goes beyond that initial wow. Then it becomes real love. So there's my diatribe on love at first sight. And then Paul also said, let me tell you this mystery. Let me reveal to you this kosher disclosure. We're not all going to sleep. We're not all going to die. Some of us will be changed in an instant, in the twinkling of an eye. There we go again. Dead in Christ arise, risen. They get injected back into the physical empty shells that have given their bodies as a living sacrifice and have given their minds over to Christ. They no longer live, but Christ does. Is the rapture that twinkling of an eye? Is that moment where the change, moving out the weakened slave soul? And this is why, oh, here's another one. Wow, I love it when a plan comes together. I need to get a cigar. I love it when a plan comes together. Because what happens is when the rapture comes, the dead in Christ arise. That's a change. And then those that are still alive get injected with that warrior soul of Rabbi Laitman's ancient invasion. And then they got some people that can really fight. And Paul is emphasizing how fast it happens, like a transporter beam on Star Trek or the beams on War of the Worlds. So the trumpet sounds, the military command is given, the dead are raised, and then the living are transformed with the very essence that was raised from the dead. So you replace a worthless, cowardly, can't even pick up a phone and make a call with a warrior that fought and died for the Abrahamic matrix in the past. Wow. Wow. It's amazing when a plan comes together. It's amazing when a plan comes together. God only promised to raise your mortal bodies. And just like Dracula, that mortal body can be filled with an immortal spirit that just needs the blood of the living to survive. Wow. Paul focuses on the body. Why? Because that's what they need to win the war. Paul doesn't give two rat's asses about your immortal soul. All he cares about is God's victory. That's why it's military language. We have solved the rapture tonight. I've been doing this for over 200,000 hours. And Dummy said, oh, he studied for 22 years straight. I'm 63 years old. I've been doing it since I was 18. You just proved my point, dummy. Maybe it's good you didn't have the balls to make the calls, because you certainly don't have the brains to figure anything out on your own. Philippians chapter 3. Jesus has the power, the dunamos in Greek, to subject everything to himself. And it's that power that will transform our lowly bodies to be like his glorious body, which was what? Flesh and bone, but it still needs blood. So eat the best you can hope for, the best that you can do is be a being raised that still needs blood. Man, we have broken tonight to places I didn't even know. So let me show you this real quick. And I think we're heading towards home here. The word in Greek for transformation is metamorphos. It's transformation of a lowly body. And if there's any word that could describe today's Christians, by and large, is lowly. And remember, we're talking about the body, not whatever you want to call the soul. So the transformation is, in Greek, to be transformed from your lowly loser body into a flesh and bone body inhabited by an actual warrior. But again, they still have to be vampiric, because flesh still needs blood to have agency in this realm. And it all makes perfect sense, because in Christianity, everything is about the blood. You're saved by the blood. You're healed by the blood. You're delivered by the blood. You're empowered by the blood. They're obsessed with the blood. And now it makes sense, because the best hope of a Christian is to have this flesh and bone body that will still be relying on blood. So you always need to have, like any vampire, you always need to have human people to drain their essence of. So the very best that you can hope for as a Christian is to be vampiric. I think there's a better hope available to you. I think there's a better hope available to you, because it sure looks like, from the text alone, that God, the Bible God, is building an army of the living and the dead to fight Yahweh's battles for him. And the more success I have in getting this message out, the shorter that battle will be. The whole gist of the rapture is the transformation of the human body into the flesh and bone body of the resurrected Jesus, supposedly. He's building an army. Z Yaw says Babylon is a vampire. Bob Marley said that, and Bob Marley was right. So, with the Christian millennium of Charlemagne, the character, when it failed to win the world for Jesus, and now it's followed, now that the millennium has ended, and Satans like me have been loose to preach the true gospel again, when Charlemagne's Christian nations failed to win the world for Jesus, now they got all is this sorry crop of cowardly Christians, which are proving to be a huge disappointment to the God of the Bible. And I feel their pain. I feel the God of the Bible's pain. I feel some empathy for the God of the Bible. I'm longing for a worthy opponent that can actually discuss, but they can't because they're afraid. So is the rapture the final desperate fallback plan of the Bible God. Seeing that having Charlemagne's Christian millennium fail, seeing the miserable failure of today's current crop of Christians, is this his fallback plan to have this twofold army of the living and the dead? Perhaps he's trying to resurrect some of his warriors of yesteryear that came with Rabbi Laitman and replace these empty shells. And he did it on purpose. He told them to make themselves a living sacrifice. He told them to take every thought captive to Jesus. He told them that they're no longer alive. So he's trying to raise an army, and it's really an army of the undead, which gets us right back to the vampire analogy. And in the War of the Worlds, the aliens were injected into vehicles that were buried under the earth. The dead in Christ will rise first. They are vehicles buried under the earth. So like Jay Bing says, it's going to be a zombie army. So that tells us to shoot for the head and get some swords to chop some heads off. Get some swords to chop some heads off. I guess Blondie had a song called Rapture. So, winding down. God has an army of the living dead. Those that sleep are rapture snatched. Those who are alive and remain were salvation snatched. They're sorry, so they'll be replaced. The salvation snatched will be replaced by the rapture snatched. Now when you read, the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive and remain will be transformed in an instant, in a twinkling of an eye. Now we can understand it. And like Zoo Yah Bonanza 999 says, Christian nationalism, Christian identity would be the United States of Zombieland. They tell us. And I tell you again, you want to be like this guy? And some of you Christians are like this right now. Oh, God, let me out of here. Let me out of here. God's raising an army of the living dead. And now the actual Greek makes sense. Because if the dead ones are raised, the dead warriors are raised, and they infuse into the bodies of the sorry, living, cowardly Christians, then the Greek works. Because remember, this word means meet the Lord in the air and continue with him to the earth to do battle. Can I suggest that's the only way that the rapture makes sense? And it's not the first time we heard this in the Bible. You remember Ezekiel's valley of dry bones? And Ezekiel said these dead bones are resurrected and they become a great army. So again, the dead in Christ are raised first. Obviously, the spirits of those that are raised first. They go into the living believers, which are transformed in an instant to a flesh and bone state. They fight the battle against us, empowered by the blood of some of the cattle they keep alive, the humans. And that's why 1 Thessalonians 4:16 is so militaristic, because it's talking about the last great battle of the Yahwehic forces. I like it better that we're fighting a zombie army. I'd rather fight a cowardly army, but a zombie army is probably second best. So Ezekiel's Valley of Dry Bones is an exact parallel to the rapture. The dead bones are raised. They're injected into the living, cowardly Christians. They become flesh and bone like Jesus. They fight against us, the divine, the sovereign, the free, the last generation of real humans, empowered by the blood of those that are left. And they lose. They lose. Paul's been trying to fix this since the middle of the first century. And Christians today are buying the lies. They're buying the lies. Wow. Wow. They faced a religious rebellion. It's called the apostasy in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, which followed 1 Thessalonians. Paul was talking about this apostasy. People were leaving in droves, just like in Genesis 6. They were coming to our side, just like in Job. They were coming to our side. We won once in Job. We won twice in Rome. We won again with Paul. And now we're winning again. We're winning again. So who is the man of sin, the man of lawlessness who must be revealed? The phone lines are still open. Let me put the phone number up. Let me put the phone number up. Who's the man of sin? I'm the man of sin. Those that have studied their way out of this are the men and women of sin. We exalt ourselves in biblical terms because we say we don't have original sin. We got the spark of divinity within. We're divine, sovereign, and free. We oppose the God of the Bible. We sit in God's temple because we realize we are the temple of the gods. Even the Bible says, no, you're not. You are the temple. That's called kosher disclosure. And we do receive worship in a sense that we realize our own divinity. But see, the modern Christians twist this by saying, oh, there's going to be a rebuilt Jewish temple. When the Bible even says, know ye not that you are the temple? They tell a lie that is kosher disclosure that the future man of sin will rule the world, and we will. The future man of sin will declare themselves God, and we are. We're divine, we're sovereign, we're free. They say that Jesus is going to win. I say they're wrong because they've never won before. Do you realize they never won before? They failed to win in Rome. We destroyed them. Charlemagne, the millennium, even though he was fake, they've been large in charge for 1,000 years and they still couldn't win. And the rapture is the last Abrahamic scope to try to deal with these problematic texts and win a war that they've already lost. To win a war that they've already lost. To win a war they've already lost. We're sitting in the temple of God because we are the temple of God. We're opposing God. And we're defeating the Bible God. We're defeating the Bible God. They say Christ is going to destroy us with the breath of his mouth, which goes to Revelation 19, where he comes and destroys all of everybody but Israel, all the Gentiles, with the sword out of his mouth. It's also in the book of Isaiah. They say they're going to win. I say we're going to win. And history's on my side. And who are the ones that were bad? The ones that received not the love of the truth. The ones who said no to the Christian gospel, a word they stole from us. And we are in They call it a delusion. I call it an enlightenment because we're realizing that the Bible's wrong. The turn and burn mentality is wrong. And let me make this point because it's really, really important. The Christians today want to act like the heathens are attacking them. We didn't start this fight. We were just fine for at least 48,000 years before Christianity ever showed up. We were content to let them do their nonsense as long as they left us the hell alone. We didn't start this Christ is King, turn or burn nonsense. We didn't start this fight. We just said, no, thank you. We want nothing to do with your nonsense. But they attacked us. And for 1,000 years, we've been too nice to too many for too long. I'm done. They continue to attack us to this very day. And I'm still convinced that we get out of this without a kinetic battle. Because as soon as all of the white, brown, black, red, and yellows who haven't bowed the knee to that Jesus fellow quit fighting with each other over silly things. Jeff, are you saying the races should work together? Yes, I am. I'm saying that everybody that doesn't bow the knee to the Judeo-Christian fear and guilt, blood magic, mind control matrix should work together. That means all non-Abrahamic should work together. Red, yellow, brown, black, white, we should all work together. Because as soon as we run these aliens out of our earth, we could go back to the way it was before them, where everybody had their own nations filled with their own people, and they were able to optimize themselves to the level that their own initiative and their own sweat equity would allow them to achieve. And we can have a barbecue or a swap meet every now and then, because I still enjoy a little cultural exchange. We didn't start this fight, but we are damn sure gonna finish it. We are gonna finish this fight. We're gonna finish this fight. Z Yaw says there's worse religions than Christianity. Show me one. Show me a non-Abrahamic religion that's worse. There are no religions worse than the Abrahamic religions. Remember, we didn't have any world wars until we had this world religion, whether it's Judaism, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Islam. Without a world religion, you don't have any world wars, because we just want to leave each other the hell alone. If you want to be a Christian, I don't care if you want to be a Christian. But I'm not going to sit by idly and let you say you're a Christian truther, because you can't be. That's oxymoronic. We didn't start this fight, but we're going to end it. We're already ending it. We're winning it. We're winning it. And it's so plain that Paul wasn't talking about things that were going to happen 1,000 years in the future. He was talking about stuff he expected to happen in his day, and he was losing people because they expected it to happen in the day of the people that were dying. And the only thing that's holding back a Christian world religion and a Christian world theocracy is us. We're the restrainers. We're the restrainers. And Paul said that they can't win until we be taken out of the way. Look around this earth. Look at Europe. Look at Africa. Look at Australia. Look at North America. Look at South America. Who are they trying to take out of the way? Mainly white people, but also people that won't bow the knee to the Judeo-Christian fear and guilt, blood magic, mind control matrix. We're the ones they're trying to take out of the way, because we're the restrainer, because we are the thing that holds them back. they're not going to be able to get rid of us. It's our earth, and we're going to win. We're going to win. Paul expected his people to know who the man of lawlessness was. What does lawlessness mean in a biblical text? Those that won't obey the law of the Bible God. That's us. Us. And they knew that. And the rapture is about mustering an army of the living dead. Come on, folks. You know an army of the living dead is no match for the divine, sovereign, and free. You know an army of the dead is no match for the last generation of real humans. They know they can't win unless they can deceive a bunch of us, and it's not going to happen. Because Paul himself said that they cannot win until after we are taken out of the way. Jesus can't do his thing until every one of us fails to do our thing. We're winning, and there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. We are the man of sin. We are the apostasy. And even they say they can't win as long as we're still here. And my job is to continue to build our people up to where we understand this, to where we get this. And I can put the number on the screen. I can open the lines, and they still won't call. Can I give you some encouragement tonight? If they don't have the testicular fortitude to pick up a phone and call a guy wearing a funny looking jacket, do you really think, man, come on. Now you're writing, that's a write-in. We don't allow write-ins. Christianity is not, well, maybe I'm misreading you. He said Christianity is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I 100% diametrically oppose that statement. It's the exact opposite of Christianity. And the tree is the cross. I'm not sure which way you're honoring that or you're pushing that. I'm not which way. Oh, I like what you said. That's my job. And he said, that's my Job. Maybe I'm the new Job. Jay Bing. Yes, that's exactly what the cupcake was for. Oh, that's a brilliant statement, because not everybody is going to become Christian. Not everybody's going to be willing to make themselves a living sacrifice. Not everybody's going to be willing to take every thought captive to the Judeo-Christian matrix. So even the people, thank you, Spaz, I like it too. So even the people that don't become Christian, this is huge right here. This is huge. Even the people that don't become Christian, that took the cupcake, they already have the homing beacon in them. They're ready to get the call, as Rabbi Laitman talked about. So I don't know how many people Rabbi Laitman had in his original invasion, but however many he had, between the Christians and those that received the cupcake, they got a lot of empty vessels to fill in. Basement, the phone numbers running along the bottom of the screen. I get tickled sometimes. What's the number? It's been running on the bottom of the screen for an hour. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. The rapture, the body snatcher rapture. I'm often imitated but never duplicated. You won't hear this anywhere else. I'm working hard. If you can ever help, the ways to donate are in the box below. I got to fix the link on the store. I don't know why I can't put a link in. But there you go, folks. There you go. I'll be back Sunday. I think I'm going to talk about the Purple Dawn on Sunday and the Violet Flame. Not sure. Not sure. But I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I appreciate every one of you that are here tonight. I appreciate the dude that at least picked up the phone and called. I don't appreciate the cowards in the chat. Like Kylie Dugan says, it's not a write-in show, it's a call-in show. Pick up the phone or leave me alone. It's that simple. Pick up the phone or leave me alone. All right, guys. All right, girls. That's it. I will send you a link. Well, I'll put the link. I'll try to send you a link, but I'll at least put the link up in the box below. I'll at least put the link up in the box below. I'll try to do it right after the show, but I'll have it done by noon. I'll have it done by midday tomorrow. Remember, I got to work a job too. I got to work a job too. Because I'm not a sellout. I'm not a sellout. All right, we're going to go ahead and close the lines now. We're going to end this awesomeness. We're going to end this awesomeness. Even though I hate to. But we are. It always kind of makes me wistful. Hear this. After truth, you don't have original sin. You got the spark of divinity within. You're divine, you're sovereign, you're free. Maybe you want to get up off a bended knee. Maybe you want to return to your ancestors, to your own divinity, instead of somebody else's savior. Do you really think he's going to save you from the sin he gave you? He just wants to make you a zombie for his army of the living dead. I love you all very much. And I promise you, this world's going to be better than it's ever been, sooner than any of us can imagine. Because we're finding out who we are, and we're finding out who the Judeo-Christian fear and guilt, blood magic, mind control matrix wants to make us. And we got a little something coming. Even the Bible says the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just. And we're just that kind of people. Go with your gods, go in your strength, go in your divinity. And remember, you got some of this headed your way. Little thing called retribution. I love you all. See you again Sunday.
Retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.